Welcome to the Rod and Crump Show. I'm your host, Rod.
I'm your host, Sean.
And he still got the KFC.
He says he's an Aztec warrior, man. He's not even full. Like he's like half Italian. He's not.
You don't like that?
Like,
I don't see your name. It don't say like "Yo Crump Section 8" or anything like that.
No. Look at this, Richard. Don't worry about this guy. It's all right.
We have a special guest today. His name is Richard Kaufman. That's how you say your last name, right, Kaufman?
Yep.
All right, and he's going to tell us about his experience with the military and what he's currently doing today. So what's going on, Richard? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for letting me come on this show. And guys, if you're watching this, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe. That's the best way to get this show get known. So, and it's free. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you're sharing this out.
That's the best thing, free.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate your time.
We do appreciate you, brother.
Bro, once you invited me, I was like, hell yeah, I got to do this. So, my story is, I'll give you a quick down and dirty. Have you guys ever been in a unit with a guy that was, now did we curse on the show or we try not?
Oh, no. This is
anything goes.
We're in the United States of America. We're not in
I just got
France.
You know? If you've ever had a guy in your unit that was a shitbag that always came in hair long, looking scruffy with a beard, have you ever had a guy like that in your unit?
Oh yeah,
That was me. But now, have you ever had a guy in your unit that was so squared away? He, maxed the PT tests, maxed everything, went to all the courses, all the classes. They called him the ultimate suck up.
Yep, I don't like those guys, to be honest.
That was me. That was me too.
Shit.
That was me twice. I'll give you a quick down and dirty. I'm the only guy you're ever going to meet that got thrown out of the military for being a drug addict. Got back in again.
Shit.
8 Article 15s, 2 field grades.
Damn.
Got back in after being thrown out. Almost got thrown out a second time just for being an asshole. After 9/11, my whole life changed. Within 3 years, Soldier of the Year, NCO of the Year. And I finished my career with over 23 years in the military till I got hurt, lost my vision, and then I attempted suicide. It didn't happen, thank God. And then I had a meeting with Gary V, had lunch.
Gary V.
Started my podcast, and now we're in the top 1% of all podcasts in the world, a best-selling author. So now I'm just helping veterans go through what I went through. Been in recovery 34 years, clean and sober, haven't had a drink or a drug since 1989. So
I was 1 year old, Richard.
Bro, I quit at 20.
Wow.
Most people didn't even get started yet.
I was about to say, I didn't get started.
I mean, I was a full-blown alcoholic at the age of 12.
Wow. I've heard stories like that. I believe that.
But that was me. So, so whatever you guys want to get into, we can start wherever you guys want to start. So I'm an open book. So whatever you guys want to talk about, let's do it.
Hey, well, real quick, you mentioned Gary V. When I was stationed in Korea back in September 2019, I got out there. I started listening to Gary V a lot. How is he in person? Is he the same way?
Bro, he's chill. He lives, his father's liquor store is 20 minutes from my house. So that's how we actually got to meet and have lunch.
Oh, where do you live at?
He lives in Jersey. He lives in his father's liquor store is like 20 minutes from my house.
Oh, I'm in South Jersey. Yeah, because I knew Gary V from Jersey. Yeah,
bro, we need to jam now. Come on now, we need to get together.
Hey, we gotta do it, Richard. We gotta link up after this, man.
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, without Gary V, he's the one that told me to write my book, my best-selling book. He's the one that told me to start the podcast. He actually started the comeback coach. Without him, I wouldn't be what I'm doing. Actually, my Wounded Warrior hat is actually sitting in his office, and you'll see it sometimes when he's on camera. You'll see the Wounded Warrior hat. That's mine hanging up. So whatever you guys want to talk about, we can jam on it.
Question that I have: What years were you in the military?
Bro, I'm an OG, and that means an old guy. Uh, I went in from 86, 88, got thrown out in 88, got back in 80, got back in 90, and stayed until 2012 till I got hurt.
Wow.
So you go way back in the military, back when it was a lot different. The lifestyle was way different.
Bro, it was different. Like if me and you guys were on, if you were on my tank and we got into an argument, we would just take our uniform off, beat the snot out of each other back behind the tank, and then we'll talk it over. There was no counseling statements. There was none of that crap. It was like man on man, and that's the way it was. And when I got out in 2012, I still didn't want to write counseling statements. I'm like, bro, if you fuck up, you fuck up. I'm not writing a counseling statement for you. So either you get right or you get chattered out. I'm not doing a counseling statement.
Right. So that's the one thing that they tried when I was at Bliss, right? I'm an E5. When I was active duty, because I'm in the reserves now, but when I was active at Bliss, they like my unit always wanted me to like counsel him. I'm like, dude, this guy, like, he's a young guy. He's fucking up his life. He had multiple cars, kept crashing them. He like took out a loan. He sold the speakers, got a check that bounced, and then the bank wanted the money back. I don't know how he got the money off. Yeah, I don't know how he got the money, but he got the money from the bank off of a bounce check. They're you gotta counsel him. Like, I would talk to him, but you know how some young guys are. We all were that age, 19, 20. No, you couldn't say nothing to him. He was a cool dude. Like, he wasn't, he was a young and dumb guy. But when it came to like his shit that he was going through, you could not say anything to him. And they're like, well, you got to counsel him. I'm like,
like when I had the honor of becoming an NCO, which I lived the NCO creed. I would tell my guys, if you came in my squad or my unit, you got one chance. You got one fuck up. I said, you can fuck up. Just don't lie to me.
Mm-hmm.
And they never did. And if they messed up, they would call me like, Sarge, I screwed up. I'm like, all right, you got your one. I'm like, but that's it. But I came from a different, like when I actually moved to New Jersey from South Carolina.
Okay.
So I would drive 13 hours to drill and 13 hours back. So when one of my guys would be like, Sarge, I'm going to be late today. I'm like, bro, don't even try it. I just drove 13 hours.
Right.
Damn.
No way you're calling in. You're going to be late today. I don't even want to hear it. So
Right.
I was kind of a hard ass, but I also realized shit happens. As long as you don't lie to me. If you say, you know what, Sarge, I got banged up last night. I'm going to be a little bit late. I need to sober up. All right. But that's your one. You're not getting two.
Right. No, I like that. No, that's how it really should be. Like now, especially when I was at Union and Bliss, man, it was like there was no room for error. No, you fucked up. Now counseling. We're just gonna keep putting on paper until we get them out of here. And I'm like, like that. I would rather, like, I had an NCO. He got in 96 in the Marine Corps. He got out in 2000, went back. I don't know if you remember him, Rob. Sergeant Dedgerin. You remember him? You probably weren't there when he was there. He probably already went off to Carson. But yeah, he retired. I think he retired about 3 years ago when I was in 4 years ago when I was in Korea. But he was like, yeah, man, like I didn't counsel nobody. He was kind of like how you were, Richard. Like, hey, we got into it. Hey, we took it out back. You know what I mean? Did our thing. Hey,
well, yeah.
Beat your ass. Hey, you lose. All right, cool. Let's go about our business. It wasn't like let's put it on paper. Like the Army to me now,
like nowadays,
even now, like I said, I'm still in, the reserves, different beasts, but still in. It's more like paper. All they want to do is it's like an admin. It's like an admin job. Yep. They just want to flood everybody with paper in every aspect of the military. They're more worried about paperwork than our training.
When I was back in 86, and I got all those Article 15s, the 2 field grades and the 6 regular Article 15s. The reason why they kept me, because I was a field dog. You put me in the field, I'm a superstar. I would stay up 4 or 5 days straight. Whatever you want, I got you. You need something, I got you. Put me in the rear with the gear, I'm getting in trouble. I'm getting drunk. I'm getting high. I'm
Right.
getting in trouble. So
Right.
they kept me for so long because they knew, man, we just keep Kaufman out of the rear, we just keep him in the field, we're gonna rock and roll. I mean, we won top tank crew like five consecutive tank gunneries in a row because I would drive, I would load, I would even gun. I'm just like, all right, let me hop from tank to tank to tank, just drinking energy drinks and coffee.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, the military now it's like he was like, Crump was saying, they're all about paperwork, man. Like I was more of the kind that I was like, hey, let's just handle this real quick outside. And all the NCOs were like, nah, we don't do things like that anymore, blah, blah, blah. And I never was a big fan of paperwork, you know what I mean? I had a couple, maybe not even a couple, maybe one or two NCOs that were like, they were about the soldier and they were about handling business off paper. But that shit is rare. Like you don't see real NCOs nowadays. You see E5s that only give a fuck about themselves. It's fuck the soldiers, I'm first, and they don't have nobody's back but themselves anymore, man. It's at least when I left the Army a year ago, that's what it was. Like it was.
Well, for me as an NCO, for me, my goal was to get my guys where I'm at, so I can move up.
Mm-hmm.
My goal was to make sure. Listen. Make sure you're maxing out on your PT. Make sure you're maxing out on your correspondence courses. Make sure you're straightened out at home. Make sure you're not doing dumb shit. So for me, I was trying to raise men. I treated them like they're my own because I went in at 17. I got out at 42. So I was the young guy and I became the old guy.
Right.
I mean, so for me, I was like they were like my kids. And I'm just trying to raise men and have them leave better because I was there than if I wasn't there.
Yeah. And you know what? Having that, and you know what, Richard? Having that staff Sergeant Dedgerin, when I had him, that's the vibe I got out of him. He gave me that same vibe. Like he would pull me to the side. Like we'd have staff duty, and it'd be times like he got me out of trouble a couple of times. I was late. I was that guy that couldn't be on time. You were the guy all scruffy. I was the guy that could never show up on time. And one time I showed up late. And I remember those, some of the E5s that we had back then, Ron. And they were they were watering at the mouth of the motor pool. They saw me walking late with a couple other guys. Oh, they were sitting there waiting.
Oh, back at Hood?
Yeah. And then Sergeant D, man, like I was walking down there. I was waiting for it, man. I was on it private. I was waiting for it. Like, all right, go ahead, chew me out. And Sergeant D comes out of nowhere. He's like, hey, Crump, you want to do staff duty with me? I'm like, yeah, all right, come on. Oh, they were pissed. But like when we would talk about like, just life. He'd give me some military advice, but then he just start talking about life, and he was just open. He was strict when he needed to be strict, but then he would just sit there, like you said, like I was his kid or something like that, and he would just talk to me. And I think like now in the Army, like a lot of them, like a lot of NCOs, like I got in trouble one time for basically being too compassionate to the soldiers. Like, oh, you need to move more hard on them. I'm like, yeah, but all the soldiers come to me when they're going through stuff. I had a soldier, wasn't even my soldier, call me because another soldier he was with was like, hey, Sergeant Crump, he's drinking. Like, he lost all his family to COVID. His brother committed suicide up in Fort Lewis, I think about a month prior. I think within that year, this is 2021, within that year, his mom and dad and sister had all passed away. So he was just going through it. And, everybody knew I was the type of guy like, hey, you want to talk? I'd tell him, hey, I went through a failed marriage. That was my biggest spill. Don't get married just because you have kids or just with the first person you see. So they knew that I was open. I told them, you want to talk about life? Come to me. I got so much heat because other squad soldiers would come to me for stuff. Hey, Sergeant Crump, man. Sorry, what's his name? They're up in the office not trying to help me. I've been asking about financial stuff. This one soldier asked me this. Can you take me down to finance? I need help, but I need NCO. I did that, got chewed out for that. Had another soldier call me. I'm over there talking about platoon sergeant, got chewed out for that. By my other E5. I'm like, dude, well, he didn't chew me out. No, somebody the same rank ain't chewing me out. But we had our words. And I'm like, well, where were you at? Why am I the Dr. Phil of the whole, platoon? You guys should be there for your soldiers. They all should be coming to me. I'm willing to help. But a lot of the guys are more worried about themselves. Long story short. Yeah, they want to get promoted, but they could care less if anybody else got promoted, as long as they look good.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the only thing that sucks about that is if I knew that if I ever got in a firefight or if I knew that I got jammed up, I knew all my guys were coming. I knew they had my back. I knew they would run through a brick wall for me. So that was more important to me than getting promoted, you know, because anybody can, like I said, anybody is great in the rear, you know, but if a guy in a foxhole, I want to be like, oh, Kaufman's in trouble. All right, we got it. Let's roll. So, and I still do that today. You know, even I've been out since 2012. I still do that. I still mentor people. I still have that sergeant attitude where I'm going to take care of you and I got you. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that's one thing that's missing. And I don't know what happened. Yeah. I don't know if you could shine light on that, Richard, or what you think happened with that. But I can tell you, at least in the last 8 years I was in, like that was a rarity. That wasn't something that was like every day with NCOs.
Well, the problem, if there's ever a problem, it's leadership down. It's never leadership. It's never from the EM up. It's leadership down. And somewhere we kind of got it screwed up where we're used to be an army of one, and then we became an army of none, and everybody was out for themselves. So, and I think, you know, I don't care which way you lean politically, it's all the same crap. But I think that once 10, 15 years ago, everything started getting political. I think everything went to shit because when I went through, there was no black. And I can tell you the story about how I got healed from racism in 1986. I got cured from that. We can talk about that. But after I was in, there was no black, there was no white. It was just green. And I think a lot of that since the last 10 years, I'm not saying who, and it doesn't matter, but I think a lot of us forget that, you know, if you raise your hand, you're my brother, you're my sister, no matter what, where you're from, you know, where you grew up, we're brothers and sisters, and we got to look out for each other. And I think we lost a lot of that. And a lot of people join the military just to either get an education. They really don't love the country like a lot of us do. They just do it to go to college. Oh, and then they're like, wait a minute, you mean I might have to go to war? Like, yeah. You know, I'd be like, oh, I didn't realize. I'm like, listen, I tell everybody, if you're going to join the military, you're going to be deployed at least 2 to 3 times. And if you're the National Guard, you're guaranteed to get deployed 2 to 3 times. And a lot of people don't think about that anymore. A lot of it was a lot of them, they like America, but they don't love America. That's my opinion. Right.
No, I hear you on that. I hear you on that because there's a lot of things I heard in the military. I'm like, how are you in the military, but then saying these things about the country that you're serving? Like, to me, it contradicted itself. Like, I had a conversation the other day, and by all means, and Rod knows this, if I start going on, get winded, y'all can be like, hey, Sean, relax. I'm Jersey born and raised, so we talk a lot. But I remember, like, the other day, I was talking to this one person, I ain't gonna name names. But I was talking to one person, she didn't serve. But I had, I put up Happy 4th of July on my Instagram, American flag, all that good stuff. And she's like, why'd you put this? I was like, this, she said, this country's so ghetto. Nobody's happy, proud to be here. I'm like, oh, hell no. Well, this is my home. I love this country. This is my home. I love America. This is the only home that I have. And she was just like, oh, why do you love this country so much? What did this country do for you? What did the military do for you? I'm like, well, the military, my family has been serving the military since World War II. And I wanted to continue that legacy. But yeah, more importantly, I wanted to support my family as well. And it gave me that ability not only to support my family while I was in the military, active duty, it's helped me get jobs. It's helped me. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about, like, mentally, physically. It taught me a lot about myself, how I could push myself the extra mile. And I loved the country before, but I really loved the country joining the military. When I joined the military, why? And it's going to segue to probably what I'm going to ask you next, Richard. But I always had a preconceived notion that a lot of people from the Deep South didn't like people like me. even though I'm more on the conservative, the libertarian side of things. So I'm not one of these guys that think, oh, white people are horrible. But it's just something up north you're taught that, hey, a lot of people down south, they're from like Mississippi, they probably don't like people like you. And I met so many guys, Mississippi, Middle Kentucky. Like I remember my boy Bentley. He showed me a picture on Google Maps where he was from. I'm like, Bentley, that's the woods. He's like, you see that little dot right there? That's my house right there. Literally, that's what he told me. And he told me that, man, I don't have nothing wrong with black people. I never learned to hate nobody. Nobody I knew hated anybody. And it was a humbling experience. So I'm proud of this country because we're not as divided as people on TV want to make it seem. So, Richard, my question for you is, what made you in the military? What caused you to stop being? I don't want to say. Were you racist? And if you were, what stopped you from having biases or whatever?
Let me just set the scene for you, okay?
Yeah, I kind of said that bluntly.
Now, I'm from Jersey, so I mean, I was from Essex County in New Jersey.
Okay.
I was a street kid. I grew up in the streets.
Okay.
I grew up. I went to Barringer High School. My high school at one point was 98% black. I was a white kid that got my ass whipped all the time. Mm-hmm. So I joined the military. Now, when I joined the military, my hair was down to my waist. I had blonde hair, earrings, everything. So I was a freak.
Like a
and when I got to my duty station, they put me in a room with a gentleman, and he was from Alabama. He's 6'3", 250-pound brother from Alabama. And he was an E4, I'm an E1. So, he talked a lot of shit. And me, not knowing to say certain words because I grew up in an Italian household and some words just flew like they flew, like they were saying hello. There was curse words. So I really didn't understand. So he said something to me, and this is in my book. It's in one of my chapters of my book. And I said the N-word. And he looked at me. He was like, I know you just didn't say that. And I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, I did. So he shut our door. He took off his cap. He whipped my ass for about 2 hours straight, literally. Beat my ass. And it was a weekend, so we didn't have drill. Right. We went to the refrigerator, grabbed 2 beers, sat on the couch, and told me about how he grew up and about how his grandmother and grandfather used to march with MLK. And he told me, about his life and about how he came up in Alabama. And so, and at that moment is when I've never said that word ever again.
Right.
And now listen, this is 1988. So he and my other roommate was from Compton. Mm-hmm. So this white boy is listening to Too Short, NWA, Dr. Dre. I'm wearing a wave cap. I was like Eminem. And we would walk into motor pool and he'd be yelling, "Hey, cracker." And I'd be yelling other words to him in the motor pool because we became brothers. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, me and him are friends. And when a lot of people, they go crazy when they see my playlist on my phone. It's Pac, it's Biggie, it's NWA, it's Too Short. So when I'm driving in my car, sometimes I'm driving like, yeah, fuck the police, Red Center with authority. And people are looking at me. They're like, really? You're a 54-year-old white guy. But I was like, but I don't see color anymore. Like my friend Joe, he's a police officer. He's retired now. Mm-hmm. And he's a brother. And one day at my store, somebody came in. He's like, hey, Joe told me to come by to see you. And I'm like, Joe. He's like, the cop. I'm like, doesn't ring a bell. He's like, the black cop. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So he sent me a picture. I'm like, that's just Joe. I don't see color. Mm-hmm. And my kids don't see color. Right. So for me, I was healed of that. And then when I became homeless at one time, I got brought in by a black family and lived with them for 10 years. And
Okay.
they're the one that taught me how to become a man. They're the one that taught me about being matriarchs and the patriarchs of the family. So for me, I have a totally different perspective on color. And so I'm like the wrong person to ask, because like I said, you pull up next to me, I'm probably pumping Pac. I'm probably pumping Biggie, and you're just
right.
like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
But now I think that's the great thing about the military, man. Like, I made friends with people I never thought I would be friends with, and I had like I said, man, I had a notion that a lot of people from down south didn't like people who looked like me, and I never dealt with anything crazy. And man, I was never in a combat deployment, but even when you go on a non-combat deployment, you still go through your little shit, and it's like, yeah, man, we're just sitting here all together, like we're all going through it. You know what I mean? We're just all going through it. We're just either we're all pissed off at one another, or pissed off the situation, or we're just laughing. We weren't seeing, like you said, we weren't seeing that color.
And I deployed in 2000. I was deployed stateside in 2003. So we get to Fort Jackson, we're hanging out at Relax in Jackson. I got my stereo pumping, and a friend of mine, he walks by, and we weren't friends then. And I'm pumping DMX, and he just looks in my room. He's like, "Are you the only guy in here?" I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, just shook his head but then I go in his room. He's listening to George Strait and Tim McGraw because he was from down south.
Right.
Like I said, then when you realize that, like you said, the country, we all like the same 98% of the shit, but people want to make a big deal about the 2% that we don't get along with. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think when you're in the military, I think a lot of it became very cliquey, And I think if it's ever going to get better, we got to stop being cliquey and just be able to hang out, be boys, no matter what color we are. If you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, who really cares? Who gives a shit? We all eat fried chicken, so who really cares?
Right.
And like Michael Jordan said, somebody asked him one time, well, how come you don't push for the Democratic governor? He's like, because Republicans wear sneakers too.
Right. Jordan did say that. That's right. Right, facts.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. So straight up, I don't care if it sounds racist or not, but when I eat barbecue, I'm dead serious. If I go to a barbecue spot, it has to be a black spot, because in my opinion, all the places that I've been to where black people are cooking the barbecue food, it's the best. If it's a white dude or a Mexican dude, it ain't as good. It just ain't as good. It's just something different they do to it. I don't know what it is, but it's just something
and
different.
Like my wife says, she says never trust a skinny chef.
Right. Oh, right.
But no, but I know what you mean though, man. Like the military stuff. The way it is now, man, I don't know if it's ever gonna change back to that old school mentality to where NCOs are looking out for their soldiers, because if they go to combat, they'll have their back. Because when I was in my experience, when I had got out, we were just talking about this one NCO. We were like, yeah, if we go to Iraq, we're just gonna let the Taliban take this motherfucker. We're gonna let him kill his ass. We don't give a fuck about this dude. And I was just like, man, I was thinking too. I was like, man, it's really come down to a point to where, like, if you get deployed and you're in a combat zone, there's certain people you would just not give a fuck about. You let them take him. Be like, hey, kill him. I don't care. Like, he's not my problem. And that's sad, man, because it's sad that it's come down to something like that. You know what I mean? Because it really shouldn't be like that. But the fact is, it's like that for a lot of people.
Yeah. And like I said, but it's all leadership down. Like on my show, I've had Navy SEAL commanders. I've had Delta Force Rangers. I've had the guy that actually ratted out the guy on when he told the Navy, we need to get these guys out of here because they're all getting COVID and getting sick. And he got
oh, I know you talking.
I've had him
on Navy ship, right?
Yeah, I've had him on the show. I've had the guy that wrote the book Pineapple Express. about to pull out in Afghanistan, and they all say the same thing. It all starts with leadership down, and that's including the man at the top. So like I said, it's all leadership down. It's not the EMs because, even when we first get in the military, we're like kids. We don't know any better. We just do what we're told, and we do what we see. So you can't blame it on the people that are getting in. It's the people that are going. I mean, if I'm going through basic, and if I want to drop a soldier, I got to get down there and do push-ups with them. I am not doing push-ups. So I mean, if you got guys like I went in basic in '86, so we were actually running in boots. Now I see guys, they got their phones, iPads. They're calling their drill sergeants drill, and I'm like, what?
Right. Yeah.
So it starts from the day you get in, and that all because it's all to do with leadership.
Right. So how would you, if you had to make your own assessment, Richard, how would you, if a war started today, and we're not talking about the technology, we're just talking about force, like man versus man. How do you think we would fare against some of the other countries in the world? Do you think we would be able to do it?
If you said, you know what, Kaufman, you are now the president of the United States. And I say this all the time, and I'm not afraid to say it. First thing I would do is I'd take everybody from every other country, put them on our borders and say, fuck you guys. We're taking care of the United States. We're going to make sure that we're safe first. Then we'll worry about everybody else. But until my country's locked up and safe, we're not fighting anywhere. And we ain't fighting for free. I mean, we fought in Iraq, and they had the biggest oil fields, and we fought for free. That's like being locked up in Walmart and not being able to eat anything. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. So for me, I say, you know what, guys? You want to fight? Whatever. I'm pulling my guys out. I'm making sure all my borders, not one, all of them are secure. And then when that happens, I'll worry about you next. Just like I can't worry about my neighbor's house being broken into if my house is being broken into.
Right.
So
and you know what?
That's my opinion.
No, but that's exactly what we got going on now.
I agree.
We're willing to spend billions of dollars to defend Ukraine's border, but we won't even spend half of that to defend our own border. We won't even put troops on the border. And it's just insane.
And when you got veterans sleeping on the streets, when you got veterans taking their lives at the VA health systems in the parking lots, but we can send billions to other countries, but we're not taking care of our women. I did a post today saying, it's crazy that when I joined the military at 17, that I signed my last will and testament at 17. I wasn't even able to have a drink, but I'm able to die for you. And also that there's people around there walking today, veterans that are walking today with bullets and shrapnel in their body that would have been meant for you and your family. And these veterans are homeless. These veterans can't get health care, but you get people coming over the borders and they can get health care. Then we have
Absolutely. And honestly, I think I'm not trying to get super political here, but I just feel like it's a priority issue. But I don't think it's this mutually exclusive to like Biden. I think it's a priority issue. I think it starts with our leadership, our political leadership. They just don't care because I think at the end of the day, a lot of them are just worried about money.
Well, in my opinion, like I said, if I go stand on my front porch, I'm actually overlooking where the Twin Towers once stood. So, and I knew people in the buildings and everything that day. And that was the day that turned my whole life around, was 9/11. But the greatest day, in my opinion, in American history was 9/12. Because we were all Americans. There was no African American, Indian American. We are all American. I mean, they sold out of flags in 4 hours. And I think we're due. We are due for something like that again. And I think it's going to take something like that to bring our country back together again. Because like I said, there was no Democrat, there was no Republican. Everybody was flying the American flags.
Oh no, you're right. Oh, my dad hated George Bush. I remember that. But I remember that day at Yankee Stadium. I didn't go to Yankee Stadium, but I remember watching the game. I think it was the first game when the season resumed. Yeah. And George Bush threw that pitch at Yankee Stadium. I remember I was watching with my dad. I just turned 13. And I remember my dad was just clapping. He was cheering. But my dad hated George Bush. He couldn't stand it. But at that time, like you said, no, we weren't worried about Democrat, Republican, your race, whatever. We were just Americans. We just got attacked. And I agree with you. I don't feel like there's anything else that could bring this country together outside of something major happening to the country, which is sad.
But I think what it's going to take is what we're doing here right now.
Mm-hmm.
The three of us just sitting talking. Like I love podcasting. I love talking to people.
Right.
I have people that are running for president next year, Democrat, Republicans, libertarians. That's how I started becoming a libertarian, because I interviewed one. But for me, I think we need to start talking and just having conversations. Just be like, okay, and most of the people I talk to, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, when you ask them why they are, they don't know why they are. They're like, well, my grandfather was a Democrat and their grandfather. And so you don't even know.
Right.
You don't even know the history, or even the Republicans. Why are you a Republican? I don't know. Well, how would you find out?
Right.
But if we can all sit down, go out to eat, talk about things, I'd be like, what, why do you feel this way? What happened? Tell me about your grandfather. Why do you feel this way? I think we would all get along because we'd be able to start understanding each other more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I try my hardest. I get a little history behind me politically. I used to be a very liberal person during the George Bush days. Guilty. And then thanks to a guy named Ron Paul and a little bit of Alex Jones too. I'm not gonna lie, Alex Jones and Ron Paul, but more Ron Paul. Yeah, I started looking at the libertarian side of things, and I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. And then I started talking to people, and I'm like, I realized, especially during Trump, I tried talking to people, and they're like, because I did vote, I'm a Trump guy, I did vote for him, but when I would tell people that, it's like they don't want to talk to you. And then when I would tell them, I'm a libertarian Republican, no, and I feel like it's it's easy for us to kind of talk, because in a way we kind of agree politically. We probably agree on a good amount of things, but to talk to somebody who's like a progressive, a leftist, they don't want to engage in that conversation. Richard, my bad. I don't know if you like Rich, but Richard.
Well, I don't care what you call me, brother. We're good.
Right. Yeah, they don't. It's hard. Like, it was rare that I had, and I know that person that was talking about how America's ghetto. She doesn't like it here. Me and her, we've known each other for years, so that's probably why we had a civil conversation. But it's rare that a random person who's on the left I can have a civil conversation with without me being called some type of, self-hater, want to be white or something like that.
Uncle Tom? Yeah,
Uncle Tom, yeah. Like, I got told one time because I didn't like Hillary Clinton. Oh, you're like that because, my ex-wife, she's white, and my older stepdaughter was white. Oh, you're only like that because you got a white wife and a white stepdaughter. I'm like, that's not why I don't like Hillary Clinton. I don't like Hillary Clinton because she's garbage. She's
okay.
corrupt.
When I was in the military, they would call me Wigger. That's what they call me, and I'm like,
I heard that in a minute.
I'm like,
I haven't Wigger in a long time either.
But and I'll admit, I voted for Obama.
I voted for Mohit
but before I did vote for him, I read everything I could about him.
Mm-hmm.
I learned everything I could about him before I voted. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. Even with the last two elections, I studied up on everybody. Even, for me, I wanted Ben Carson. I love Ben Carson. I
like Ben Carson. Yeah.
And now there's the kid, I call him a kid, but the senator out of South Carolina.
Amazing. Like Scott. Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people in the Facebook or Instagram generation, whatever they see posted is what they believe. They don't do studying. You know what I mean? They don't really go back and study their history. And I think, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right.
You know, like
absolutely.
if I tell somebody, you know, well, who started the KKK? And they'll tell me, oh, it was the Republican Party. I'm like, go back in your history, find out that it was the Democratic Party that started the KKK.
Racist white guy.
I mean,
sometimes because people will say, well, you know, like I'm a big religious guy. My Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and I'm not afraid to say it. You know, but I know my Bibles, and in order for me to have a conversation with a Muslim, I need to know what the Quran says. So somebody, well, the Muslim, and I say, did you read the Quran? No. Well, then you shouldn't be able to talk about if you don't even know what you're talking about. And I think a lot of people are not educated, and they don't want to educate. They just want to read posts and read memes. You know what I mean? That's what they want to do, and so you get what you get.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite sad that I had people who attacked me in the last election for not voting for Joe Biden. When I'm like, okay, y'all are the same people, and these are a lot of the same people who want to talk about how America's so racist and systemically racist, and you know, cops are after us. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna vote for Joe Biden, a guy who openly supported segregation in the 1970s and worked with a bunch of Dixiecrats to stop the integration of public school busing. That's the guy I'm supposed to vote for. I'm supposed to vote for the guy who wrote the crack cocaine laws in the 1980s. And Richard, you would know more because you were more conscious in the 80s than I was. I was only a little kid. But crack cocaine was more the drug of choice for people of color because it was a cheaper drug. And Joe Biden wrote the laws to go after just crack cocaine, not the Wall Street drug, but the drug that people in Camden, New Jersey, and Jersey City are taking. Joe Biden wrote the 94 crime bill that specifically went after black men. Joe Biden said in 2007, you cannot go into a 7-Eleven without having a slight Indian accent. Shit. Joe Biden said to somebody like me, when I'm serving my country in Korea, if I don't vote for him, I ain't black. That's the guy I'm supposed to vote for? And then you gonna preach to me about racism? You voted for the most racist president probably since Lyndon Johnson.
But it's not a meme, so it's not true.
Right.
If it didn't happen on Instagram, it didn't happen.
Right. Because nobody wants to do research, Richard. It's so frustrating. It's easy Google search. And I know you can't believe everything on the internet, but this is not hard stuff here. You don't need to be a scholar to look this stuff up.
But you know, I got to say, you know, like Bill Clinton was the first black president ever. I'm just going to say that. But you know, there's been good presidents, and then there's been bad presidents. But like, I agree with the gentleman I talked about on the Libertarian. He's like, you know what? It really doesn't matter who your president is. It's more important who's on your board of education, who's your sheriff, who's your mayor.
Local.
That's the important stuff because they're the ones that directly affect your life. So that's what you. And most people, like I work for the town where I'm in charge of the drug and alcohol program. When we have a board of education meeting, no parents show up.
Wow.
But when it comes time to complain, they all show up. So you know that I think we need to be more conservative financially. If as a civilian, if I can't write a check for money I don't have, the government should not be able to write a check for money they don't have.
Facts.
That's the common sense. I mean, that's not political. That's just right or wrong. I think you know if we need to get our country just to get back to middle is just common sense. Now this is something that I caught a lot of shit on my show. I said that if a Republican gets voted for president, the vice president should be a Democrat, or vice versa, to where both parties are being, you know, they're both being taken care of. Because if a Republican becomes the president, they're going to be blocked for the next 4 years from doing anything. Right. If a Democrat becomes the president for the next 4 years, the Republicans, so nothing ever gets done. So in my way, I'd have, like I said, Democrat and Republican are vice president and president, so we get shit done.
And they used to do that way back. If people need to know the history. Way back when they used to do that.
Yeah, makes sense, right?
It made sense. And I've heard, people have been saying that if Trump, wins the Republican nomination, he may select RFK as his running mate. I love RFK. I love the Kennedys. I think they were one of the most, the first, and at least in the modern era, the first, how do you say it? I don't want to say rebel presidency, but the first presidency that kind of bucked the trend, that they weren't going to do what they were being told to do. They were going to, JFK wanted to get rid of the CIA after the Bay of Pigs. He wanted to get rid of the Federal Reserve. He wanted to do a lot that would have helped the people, helped this country out. And I think
don't even realize the IRS is not a government agency. That's a privately run agency. Mm-hmm. And people don't even know that.
Mm-hmm. The Federal Reserve,
they don't study. They don't want to pick up a book. Like I've read, I'm a 9th grade dropout, but I've read over 6,000 books, and I got 15 books going right now. Mm-hmm. So, I'm the kind of guy, if you tell me, whatever you tell me, like if you want to come on the show next week, you're going to tell me, well, I'm going to know everything I can about you to come on the show. I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to find out about where you went to school. I'm going to talk to your classmates. So I think that we need to dig deep into whatever we're going to be doing. If I put a post out on social media, it's not just because I do it willy-nilly. It's because there's intention behind it. And I've studied it and I've learned about it before I even open my mouth.
Right. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just talk, or they just regurgitate something that they heard from somebody else, which is so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Like I was arguing with somebody on Snapchat. I posted a pro-Trump thing, and it was, so Donald Trump didn't deserve. I'm like, Donald Trump got in. She swore Donald Trump was getting kicked out of office. I'm like, that's not what an indictment is. Like, it's hard to argue with people when they don't even know the basics. Like, Google indictment. Let's start with that. Figure out what an indictment is, and then you can come talk to me about him being banned from running for office again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, because like I said, I don't care about politicals either way.
Yeah.
But when you realize that both Clintons were disbarred before they became president from being lawyers, but nobody said anything about that. Mm-hmm. So wait a minute, you both got disbarred before you became president, but nobody even mentioned it. Nobody even talked about it.
Right.
But it is what it is. I think this is right here is what can change America and make it become the country that it was how great it once was.
I do. I agree with that. I think we need more people to be civically involved. And I've said to people, you don't need to put your name on the ballot, but you need to go school. Like you said, the local level is the least untapped power by the people. And it's insane. Go to the school board meetings, go to the city council meetings.
But you know what? Nobody wants, and I hear it all the time. They complain about the school board, but would you want to join the PTA? No, I'm too busy.
Mm-hmm.
You want to join the board of education? No, I'm too busy. So wait a minute, you're too busy to be involved in your kid's life, but then you're going to talk crap when they get in trouble because they weren't taught right.
Right.
And like for me, I got 3 children. I got 3 beautiful children. I got a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and an 11-year-old. And when if a teacher writes a note home, my daughter or son did this, my first thing is, what'd they do? I'm not like, well, you didn't teach them right. I'm like, well, what did my kid do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of parents, they're like, well, you're not teaching them right. Well, what are you teaching them at home? You're teaching your kids. You're telling your kids don't drink, don't smoke dope, but you're sitting home getting liquored up, smoking blunts and eating edibles, and you're telling your kids to doing it.
Right. Oh, preach. And I don't get me wrong. I ain't trying to sound a hypocrite. I drink. I don't get plastered around my kids, but I drink. But preach, because I know, especially in the state that we're in right now, Richard, that happens. Probably it's happening right now. It happens like 1,000, 2,000 times a day. But a parent, it's like that whole, it drives me nuts. Do as I say, not as I do. Parents need to be more involved in their kids' lives. And I know maybe it's off topic. I'm sorry, but it just hit my head. Parents need to be more involved in their kids' lives, and they need to be a better example, myself included, So I want somebody saying on the podcast, "Oh, well, you did it." I'm not innocent. I'm not an angel. I need to be a better dad. I think Rod, hey, you may be able to say, "Hey, this thing you could do better." Richard, you probably could say, "There's things you could do better."
Oh yeah.
We all,
Like I'm in charge of the youth in my town. I'm 54 years old, but if you ask the average 35, 40-year-old parent, what's Snapchat? What's Instagram stories? What are reels? They have no clue what their kids are looking at. They have no clue what they're doing.
No.
So for me, I'm on. You're damn right. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Snap. I'm every single platform that is available, including TikTok. So, but at least I'm able to talk to my kids about, man, did you see that on TikTok? Because I know they're seeing it.
right.
But I'm just in the dark and I don't know what's going on. How can I help my kids if I'm in the dark?
Right.
Most parents don't care though. Like I'm not gonna say names obviously, but I got a friend, female friend, that she has a kid, teenager. Lets her do whatever she wants, dude. Like literally, doesn't set the example for her. Lets her do whatever she wants, talk how she wants, act how she wants. I mean, this chick is like, she's a teenager, and she's on because my wife and I we share a Snapchat. We got the Snapchat, and she posted a story of her like thong sticking out and shit. I'm like, bro, who the fuck like aren't her parents like watching this shit? And of course not. Of course they know it's happening, but they're not paying attention. They're not saying anything about it. So they're letting kids do whatever the fuck they want these days, and these kids are the way they are because they have parents that are careless. Like that brings me back to the whole, parents don't go to the PTA meetings. Everybody says they love their freedom and this and that, but they don't want to do nothing about keeping that freedom. They don't want to see what's going on behind closed doors. They don't want to pay attention to that. But hey, I love getting up and going to the store at this time or doing this when I want to, but they're not trying to do anything to make it better, to fix it or to keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like where we grew up in Jersey, if you go to certain towns like Camden, Jersey City, there's shootings every single day. And there's always mothers out there crying, my baby, my baby. Well, what was your baby doing out at 2:00 in the morning? Why weren't you worried about your baby when you knew he was hanging out with the Crips, with the Bloods? You knew he was hanging out, partying, drinking, doing drugs. Where was the my baby, my baby, my baby? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's just personal responsibility. And that comes from a father's perspective. I worry about my kids, but also I got two grown boys, and I tell them, I'm teaching you how to be a man. If you're messing up, I'm going to tell you, bro, you're screwing up. But I'm also going to hug them and give them a kiss before they leave the house. Let them know that I love them. So I think we need to do that too. Also, because the way they say, well, you got to man up. Well, telling the veteran to man up, we're losing up to 60 veterans a day because we're supposed to man up.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you can even expand that into mental health, period.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff doesn't get taken, especially with men.
Yeah.
Men, period. Not the word soldier encompasses women as well, but men, whether in the military or not, it's not something that gets taken care of. It's not something that's taken seriously. And we're always supposed to just push our feelings to the side. Like you said, Rich, man up, you'll be all right. Hey, brush it off. Don't worry about it. Here, have a beer, drink it, drink it away. Come watch the game real quick. Don't worry about it. Like me and my friends, we talk. Me and my friends, we've all cried around each other. My friends out here in Jersey, at one point, we've all been talking deep, and we just had to break down. Or we had to give them a call, like, bro, I'm losing it, dude. I need to just talk. And a lot of men, especially these young guys, man, they think being the man is running around, trying to look mean, and trying to live a life that ain't yours.
I'm a gangster.
You know what I mean? And no, being a man is
wanksters.
Yeah, right. And being a man is for me to go up to Richard, man. Me and Richard, man, we've been friends for 20 years. Me being able to go up to Richard, go to his house, and just break down crying to him, say, man, I need a hug. I'm hurt. That's what men do.
Yeah.
That's what men do. I'm not saying it's no soft shit, no trying to water down men. No, there's time to be masculine and be the tough guy, be the alpha male. But then there's times it'd be like, hey, bro, come here, man. Because we don't have that enough in with men.
Yeah, like everybody knows, if you know me, I'm the biggest goofball you're ever gonna meet.
Right.
I'm still a big kid. Like when we hang up, I'm gonna be playing 2K3. You know, I'm gonna be playing Madden. I'm gonna play with my kids.
And Richard, 2K3?
Oh, bro,
2003?
I'm playing for the Warriors right now. So
okay, yeah.
But I'm also the guy that everybody gets a hug when they're around me. But there's also a time where I know, you know, I fought in the ring for a couple of years, that if I have to kill somebody, I got no problem doing it. But I don't have to walk around like I can kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like I was told by a billionaire, we were having lunch one day, and he says, I got a Lamborghini outside. He says, I could do 55. I don't have to do 100. They know I could do 55. So I think once you're confident as a man to know that if I with the same hands that I can hold my newborn baby, it's the same hands that I can crush your throat. You know what I mean? And if we could walk around like that and not having to be all macho and all that, I think it would be a lot better. But a lot of guys, you know, like for me, now that we're talking, we're going to be friends forever. You know, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to be like, bro, how are you? And then you're going to give me that answer, I'm all right. And then I'm going to ask you again, how are you really doing? Then you'll tell me. But a lot of guys don't ask that second time.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. See, I'm the kind of guy, I'm like that. Like, I got friends that are still in the military and stuff, and I give them a call, and I'll be like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, well, I'm doing all right. And I'm like, don't bullshit me. Don't lie to me, like over the phone or even in my face. Tell me the truth. And then they're like, oh, well, you know, got this going on and that going on. I'm like, all right, see, that's a much better response. That's a real response. Because every guy, like you said, every guy you call, like, how you doing? Like, I'm doing all right. I say the same thing all the time when people ask me how I'm doing. Like, I'm doing all right. And there's times where I'm like, I'm doing all right, but I'm like, hey, I got a gun in my lap right now. I'm ready to kill myself.
And see, you know, like me, I got a very big social media presence. And if I see somebody on Facebook and I know they're struggling, you know, everybody's going to say, you know, they'll actually write on their comments, praying for you, I'm here for you. Nobody ever calls them. Nobody ever messages them or leaves them a message and be like, hey, bro, call me. You know what I mean? It's all for show.
Right.
It's not, to really say, hey, bro, how are you doing? I seen your post today. You need anything? I got your 6. If you need anything, I'm on my way. We'll go grab something to eat. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of it is that they're pretending to be friends until you need a friend.
Literally before I got on, and I don't have no problem talking about this. I ain't going too much detail, but I was just going through it. I hit Rod up. I hit my boy Kenny up. He's a Marine, retired Marine. And I was like, man, like, yeah, I was like, bro, I'm going through it, man. Like, things ain't going how I wanted to go. This is going on. Like, you know, just a lot of stuff going on. And my boy Kenny, the first thing he said to me, he's like, hey, man, you want to come over and talk? I said, man, I can't right now. I got to do this podcast or whatever. I appreciate it. But we talked for a good, like, 45 minutes. But I was just going through it, man. Like, it's just, we just need more. We need more. We need men. We need friends to be brothers, take it to that next level.
Well, I know, like, I did a post the other day.
Yeah.
My insomnia was really bad. And I didn't sleep at all. But I knew that I had a podcast episode because if I didn't do that podcast, I was afraid that another veteran might take their life. But I wrote on my social media, I said, guys, I'm not feeling good today. I ain't feeling right. And I just want you to let you know that you're not the only one that don't feel good. So, you know, I try to be that guy who was, well, if Kaufman ain't feeling good, it's okay for me not to feel good. I'm not the only one. I'm not alone.
Right.
You know, that's my whole goal in life now, is to let people know, you know, I got big shoulders. I got big ears. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth so I can listen twice as much as I talk. So if you need somebody to talk to, you know, I'd rather hear your bullshit than your eulogy.
Right. Facts. Right.
So that's why I do what I do now, is because I attempted suicide Memorial Day 2012. because I felt like I didn't have anybody. I felt alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want anybody to feel alone anymore. I want to let everybody know, it's okay not to be okay, but you don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I definitely feel that. I've been there for sure, where I felt like I didn't have anybody. I felt alone. It's crazy, man. Like I only got a handful of people that actually ask me how I'm doing at times still, and sometimes I go through it. Everybody goes through it, but I often wonder too. Like I think about it, I'm like, damn, I spend a lot of time asking everybody how they're doing, but nobody asks me how I'm doing. And sometimes I go through it. Like I remember last year I had a really rough time when I got out the army. I was going through some really rough stuff, and things got really bad. And I won't go into too much detail, but yeah, I was on a different one, man. I was not myself at all for a while.
But at least we could do things like this where somebody's out watching and they'd be like, wait a minute. Yep. 3 different people from 3 different lifestyles, and we're all talking the same shit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
We're all going through the same shit.
Yep.
It's
right.
We're all going through the same shit, so we're not alone, and we're not afraid to be who we are. There's no filters here. There's no, it's just real talk. Like I'm speaking on Valentine's Day in Raleigh in front of 5,000 veterans at Real Talk, and that's what it is. It's going to be real talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Hell yeah. That's awesome, man. No, that's awesome, man. That's exactly what this show is about, man. Like we wanted to get our show out there and just show people like what it's like to have a real podcast, what it's like to talk about real topics, real life issues with real people. Nothing's scripted, because you got a lot of podcasts out there that are scripted. People read scripts before going on, or they're supposed to talk about certain things, or they can't cuss, or this, and that. And me and Crump are like, let's do a podcast where it's just 100% real. Like, we'll think of a topic throughout the week, and we'll get to the show. We'll have guest speakers, and we won't ask them about anything about them until they get on the show. So that way, we're all getting the same info. We're all barely getting to know each other, and it's just all real. Like nothing's fake. That's one thing.
Well, like when I have my show, I don't have any scripted questions.
Yeah.
0 editing. So whatever you say because we are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So whatever you say, so suck it up, Buttercup. And I do have scripted questions. The first question I ask is, well, what is your definition of resiliency? Mm-hmm. The last question is, how do we find you? Other than that, I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know what we're going to talk about. But I do my due diligence. Like I know when you guys come on the show, which I'm inviting you formally now, I'm going to dig deep into your past. So I'm going to be asking questions about your family, your grandparents, where you came from. I might even talk to kids you went to high school with. But I don't have any scripted questions. But I do know all about you when you do come on, because I am the G.I. Joe Rogan.
Hell yeah, I like it.
So, and whatever, whoever's out there listening, if you need me, I'm available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, free, always. Obviously, I have my podcast. I sell coffee. I have T-shirts. I got hats. I got my book. And 100% of everything that I make, 100% goes to help veterans struggling with PTSD and homelessness. So I don't make anything off anything that I do, because I'm always trying to pay it forward. And what that means is, if you buy something from me, I'm doing it to help somebody else.
Right. Okay. Do you have a website? Do you have
it's called Vertical Momentum Podcast.com. Or even if you just now, because of Gary V, if anybody puts in Vertical Momentum Podcast, we're on the first 6 pages of Google. So all they got to do is put that in, it'll come up. Our show is on 14 different platforms.
Wow. Okay.
So, and like I said, everything I'm doing, damn, you're good. That's me. But everything I do is I do it for free, because this way you're not saying, well, he's trying to make money off me. No, because I don't make any money off of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
There's my number one book right there.
Now, all right. So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is that you?
That was me at 17 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Now, let me tell you a story because this happened today. In my town, they have, where they put your pictures up for Veterans Day and Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I do my walk every morning. And a lady's sitting there looking up at my picture. And she looks at me. And she looks at my picture. She goes, "Is that you?" She's like, You're Richard? You're the vertical momentum guy?" She's like 80. She follows me on our town page.
Wow.
Nice.
And she says, "I see your posts every single day." And that just reminded me that, they don't have to be veterans to see what we're doing every day.
Mm-hmm.
We never know who we're going to affect just by showing up every day.
That's right.
100%, man.
That's right. Well, Richard. Oh, you got another? Got something you want to say?
We appreciate you coming on the show, Richard. We really do. It's been a good show, man. It's been awesome.
Definitely gonna have you on again, brother.
I want to have both you guys on, and I'm going to send you links to get you guys both come on. And I'm on StreamYard also. So yeah. I love this platform. So guys, if you're watching this, make sure you subscribe to their podcast. Make sure you're leaving a written, not just a star. Make sure you leave a written review because it bumps them up in the algorithm. So make sure you're leaving reviews and subscribing and sharing. It's all free, but it's the best thing you can do to help them.
Oh, we do appreciate that, man. We really do appreciate that.
Also, check out his podcast as well. VerticalMomentumPodcast.com is a website. Check out this man's book. Now I'm gonna have to read it. See, now I'm curious.
Right.
Book now.
And like I said, that whole that one chapter. Well, if you do pick up the book, it's a my whole life story. But the last two chapters are, what does addiction really look like? It's not what you think it looks like. And also the last chapter is, what does depression and suicidal ideations look like? It's not what you think it looks like. So it can save a child's life if you read that book.
Okay.
Yeah, see now you sold me. I'm gonna have to read it now. See?
Right.
And it's $11 and 100% of the proceeds go to help Project Die Hard, saving veterans and changing lives. So I don't make any money off of it. I have not since day one.
No, that's awesome, man. I support that for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely get a book.
So thank you guys so much for having me, and I'm so grateful for you. And you're in Jersey, so we definitely got to jam.
After we close out, just stay online real quick. I think we should all swap. Well, I already got your information, Rod. But me and you, Richard, man, we
we'll hang out.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Thank you guys for watching the Rod and Crump Show. Again, I'm your host, Rod.
I'm your host, Crump.
And have a great night, and we will see you next week.
God bless.